My name is Robert Hale, and I am 72 years old. I never thought my life would become a story worth telling, let alone one that begins with betrayal, silence, and an old refrigerator humming softly in a small apartment. But life has a way of teaching lessons when you least expect them. I lived alone in a modest one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood outside Cleveland, Ohio. Nothing fancy, just clean walls, a small kitchen, and a living room filled with memories instead of furniture. Every morning I woke up before sunrise, not because I had to, but because old habits never leave you. For 46 years, I worked as a city bus driver. Rain, snow, holidays, it didn't matter. I showed up. I drove my route. I got people where they needed to go. And every month, when my pension arrived, I thanked God quietly. Because that pension wasn't luxury money. It was survival money. My daughter, Emily. Emily is my only child. Her mother passed away when Emily was just 14. From that day on, it was always just the two of us. I worked double shifts. I skipped meals. I wore the same coat for 15 winters, all so Emily could have a better life. She was smart, ambitious, always dreaming of more, and I encouraged that. Go see the world, I told her. Don't end up tired and stuck like me. I never wanted her to feel trapped. So when Emily called me one afternoon, her voice bright and excited, I didn't expect what came next. The call. "Dad," she said cheerfully, "guess what?" "What?" I asked, smiling into the phone. "I finally got time off work. A big group of us are planning a trip to Europe. Italy, France, Spain, the whole thing." "That sounds expensive," I said carefully. There was a pause. Then she spoke softly. "Dad, I was wondering if I could borrow some money." I already knew. "How much?" I asked. "Just for a little while," she said quickly. "I'll pay you back, I promise." She didn't say the number at first. When she finally did, my chest tightened. It was almost my entire pension for the month. I looked around my apartment, the quiet walls, the old sofa, the ridge that rattled if you closed it too hard. I thought of medicine, electric bills, groceries, and then I thought of Emily. The decision. "I don't need much," I said slowly. "I'll manage." Her voice lit up. "Oh my God, Dad, you're the best! I swear I'll make it up to you." I transferred the money that same day. After the call ended, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. The room was quiet. Too quiet. Living on less. That month, I learned how little a man could live on. I skipped breakfast. I drank water when I felt hungry. I bought only bread, rice, and canned soup. The fridge became emptier each day. But I told myself it was temporary. Emily was happy. That was enough. Or so I thought. The trip ends. 3 weeks later, Emily came back. She didn't call first. She just showed up at my apartment one afternoon. "Dad," she said, hugging me, "the trip was amazing." She talked non-stop. The beaches, the food, the photos. I listened, smiled, never complained. Then she stopped talking. Her eyes moved past me, toward the kitchen. The fridge. "Dad," she said slowly, "have you been eating?" I shrugged. "Enough." She walked to the refrigerator, opened the door, and then she screamed. A sharp, broken sound filled the apartment. Inside the fridge were a half-empty carton of milk, a small container of rice, a few slices of bread, and a folded envelope taped to the inside shelf. Her hands trembled as she pulled the envelope free. Inside was a handwritten note. Emily read it out loud, her voice cracking. "I didn't want to worry you. I'm proud of you for seeing the world. Some dreams are worth a little hunger. Love, Dad." Her knees buckled. She sat on the floor, crying uncontrollably. And for the first time, my daughter truly saw me. Emily sat on the cold kitchen floor, the refrigerator door still open, its weak light spilling across the room like a quiet confession. She hadn't meant to scream. The sound escaped her before she could stop it, raw, sharp, full of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Fear, guilt, shame. I stood a few steps behind her, leaning lightly against the counter. My knees ached and my back was stiff, but I didn't move. I had learned long ago that some moments need space, not fixing. "Dad," she whispered, staring into the nearly empty fridge. "Why didn't you tell me?" I sighed softly and closed the refrigerator door. The hum of the old motor faded into silence. "There was nothing to tell," I said gently. "You were traveling. You were happy." She shook her head, tears dripping onto the tile floor. "I took your pension," she said, her voice trembling. "Your money, your food." I knelt slowly beside her, my joints protesting the movement. "You didn't take anything," I said. "I gave it." That only made her cry harder. A daughter's blindness. Emily had always been driven. Even as a child, she wanted more. Better schools, bigger dreams, wider horizons. And I was proud of that. I still was. But ambition has a quiet shadow. It makes you move forward so fast that you forget to look behind. "I posted pictures every day," she said between sobs. "Restaurants, hotels, wine tastings. And you were here eating rice and bread." I placed my hand on her shoulder. "Life isn't a competition," I said softly, "and love doesn't keep score." She looked at me then, really looked. The gray in my hair, the thinness of my arms, the tired lines around my eyes. She saw not just her father, but a man who had slowly been shrinking his own needs for decades. The hidden envelope. Emily wiped her face and stood up. Her eyes moved back to the fridge. "What's this?" she asked, holding the empty milk carton. I hesitated. "There's something else," I said quietly. I reached into the freezer and pulled out a small plastic container. Inside were neatly stacked envelopes. She opened one. They were bills. Electric, gas, medication, all dated and carefully organized. She gasped. "You didn't pay these," she said. "Not yet. I was waiting for next month's pension." Her hands shook as she flipped through them. "And if something happened to you?" she asked. "If you got sick?" I smiled faintly. "I've been sick before. You survive." A memory resurfaces. Emily sat at the table now, the envelope from the fridge still clenched in her hand. "I remember something," she said quietly. I waited. "When Mom was sick, you used to tell her not to worry about money, but I overheard you on the phone once, arguing with the bank." I nodded. "I sold my watch that year, the one your mother gave me." Her breath caught. "You never told me." Some things are easier to carry alone. The shift. That afternoon, Emily didn't talk much. She cleaned the kitchen, she filled the fridge, she ordered groceries online without asking. She cooked dinner, a real one. Chicken, vegetables, soup. We ate together in silence. But it wasn't an empty silence anymore. It was heavy, thoughtful, changed. After dinner, Emily looked at me and said something I never expected. "Dad, I don't want to live like this anymore." I raised an eyebrow. Like what? I asked. Like I only exist when I need something. Like you're just my safety net. I didn't answer right away, because she was right. The promise. I'm going to fix this, she said firmly. I'll pay you back. Every dollar. I shook my head. That's not the point. Then what is it? She asked. I thought for a moment. Presence, respect, remembering. She nodded slowly. I forgot. That night, Emily stayed over. She slept on the couch like she used to when she was a teenager. I lay in my bed, listening to the apartment settle, the pipes, the distant traffic, the quiet breathing from the other room. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't hungry, but more importantly, I wasn't invisible. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the thin curtains and rested quietly on the kitchen table. For a moment, I forgot everything. Then I heard movement. Emily was already awake. She stood at the sink, washing dishes that were already clean. Her shoulders were tense, her face pale in the morning light. She hadn't slept much. Neither had I. A hard question. Dad, she said, without turning around, how long has this been going on? I poured myself a cup of coffee, weaker than usual, but warm. How long has what been going on? I asked. You sacrificing, she said, without telling me. I sat down slowly. Since the day you were born, I replied. She closed her eyes. I didn't mean like that, she said. I mean, recently. I thought about it. Since you moved to Chicago, I said, rent went up, medications changed, life happens. She turned toward me, her eyes filled with frustration, not at me, but at herself. And you didn't think to tell me? I didn't want to burden you, I said calmly. Parents don't want to be weight, they want to be ground. The guilt sets in. Emily pulled out her phone and sat across from me. I spent $8,000 on that trip, she said quietly. The number hung between us. I didn't even check if you were okay, she continued. I was busy posting photos. She scrolled through her screen and showed me pictures, smiling faces, sunsets, fancy meals. I look so happy, she said bitterly. You were, I said. That wasn't fake. But it was selfish, she replied. I shook my head. Selfishness isn't wanting joy, I said. It's forgetting who helped you get there. A visit to the bank. Later that day, Emily insisted we go out together. She drove. We stopped at the grocery store first, then the pharmacy, then the bank. At the bank, she sat across from a financial advisor while I waited quietly beside her. I want to set up automatic transfers every month, she said. The advisor looked at me. Sir, do you approve? I hesitated. Emily's eyes pleaded. I approve, I said finally, but only if it doesn't hurt you. She nodded. It won't, she said firmly. I'll make sure. A shift in roles. That afternoon, something changed. Emily didn't treat me like someone fragile. She treated me like someone valuable. She asked questions. She listened. She slowed down. And I realized something important. Sometimes love isn't about giving more. Sometimes it's about staying present. The phone call. That evening, Emily received a call from one of her friends. I could only hear her side of the conversation. Yeah, the trip was fun, she said quietly, but I'm not going out much anymore. Pause. No, I'm serious, she continued. I'm reevaluating things. Another pause. My dad needed me, she said simply. She hung up and looked at me. I told them the truth. I felt something warm in my chest. Pride. An unexpected apology. Later that night, Emily stood at the door, ready to leave. She hesitated. "Dad," she said softly. "Yes?" "I'm sorry, not just for the money. For the years I assumed you were fine without asking." I nodded slowly. Apologies don't erase the past, but they change the future. She hugged me tightly, not rushed, not distracted. A new routine begins. After that day, things changed. Emily called every morning. She visited every Sunday. She brought groceries, not out of guilt, but care. The fridge stayed full. The apartment felt warmer. And I felt seen. Weeks passed quietly after that day. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty, but the kind that feels settled. The refrigerator hummed steadily now, full and reliable, like a promise that no longer needed words. Emily kept her word. She didn't just send money, she showed up. The new normal. Every Sunday afternoon, she came over with grocery bags and stories from her week. Sometimes she cooked. Sometimes we ordered simple takeout and ate at the small kitchen table. She asked questions she had never asked before. "How's your back today? Did you take your medication? Are you sleeping okay?" Not out of panic, out of care. And I answered honestly, not dramatically, not dismissively. We learned how to talk again as adults. The day I got sick. One evening, about 2 months later, I felt dizzy. Just a little. I tried to ignore it. Old habit. But Emily noticed immediately. "You don't look right," she said, setting down her purse. "I'm fine," I replied automatically. She crossed her arms. "That's what you said before the fridge," she said. I smiled faintly. "You're learning," I said. She drove me to the clinic that night. Nothing serious, dehydration and low blood sugar. But as I sat there, watching her fill out forms, I realized something painful and beautiful at the same time. I didn't have to be strong alone anymore. The conversation we avoided. A few days later, Emily asked something harder. "Dad, why didn't you ever ask me for help?" I looked out the window for a long moment. "Because once," I said slowly, "I was afraid if I did, you'd stop seeing me as your father and start seeing me as a responsibility." Her eyes filled with tears. "You were never a burden," she said. I nodded. "I know that now," I replied, "but pride can make lonely decisions." The lesson. Emily leaned back in her chair. "You know what scares me most?" she said. "What?" I asked. "That fridge," she said quietly. "Not because it was empty, but because I never thought to look inside before." I smiled sadly. "Most people don't," I said. "They assume love takes care of itself." She reached across the table and held my hand. "I won't assume again," she said. A small change that meant everything. Months later, Emily made another decision. She moved closer. Not into my apartment, but just 10 minutes away. "Not because you need me, because I want to be near you." The fridge stayed full, but more importantly, so did the space between us. The final truth. People think the lesson of this story is about money. It isn't. It's about attention. It's about asking. It's about noticing. It's about opening the fridge before it's empty. Because love doesn't disappear all at once. It fades quietly, one assumption at a time. Epilogue. Sometimes Emily still travels. Sometimes I still wake up early and sit quietly with my coffee. But now, when she opens my fridge, she smiles. And when I look at my life, I don't feel forgotten. I feel held.